This is a 2019 boat. Sam Goodchild has got it now, and he's certainly putting a lot of effort into trying to find ways to make this boat work for him. Finding a little bit of extra sleep, making cooking just that little bit more comfortable, easier and safer as well. Because if you can look after your body and you can look after your mind, you're going to be able to perform better on the boat. So what ways are these sailors getting their boats better, more comfortable and kinder places to be?
Niall, sorry.
Yes, sir.
French, we take the piss out of French people for sailing in jeans.
Brian Thompson said that.
Next week. So I'm happy to see you in jeans on board.
Yeah. We were asking Brian what's a stereotypical Frenchman.
Yeah.
And his response was sailing in jeans. And Niall Myatt turns up.
Yeah.
Wearing jeans.
Yeah.
So this comes out what was Super 60, Mark Turner's Super 60 program. This boat was the boat that came out of that mould.
Right.
Yeah. I don't know if you're allowed to talk about that.
In terms of the boats, they're not kind. When people make them and all the rest of it, they're not thinking, oh, well, let's round that corner off and let's smooth that little bit there. It might make the boat slower, but it'll make it a bit more livable. The first thought is speed, right?
So the newer generation, they've started thinking about that being like, comfort is speed, so let's try and find a way of being comfortable.
Okay. We've reached the limit.
Whether it's wave deflectors to stop waves coming into the cockpit, whether it's the chart table seat having a good spot where you can relax and be as comfortable as possible in gnarly conditions, basically.
Been on these boats quite a few times now, but one thing that's really surprising, I think, about a 60-foot boat is actually how little space you have to be on board, to find a place to be where you're out of the way if you're in my case, but also just winching, grinding. You cramp, the cockpit's on top of you, everything is taken up by a rope or a system or a winch piece of gear. It's not designed as a comfortable place to live. And you look at it and you think, that's a really big boat, that would be easy to fit 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 people on it, and it's not.
No, everything's compact for one person.
Yeah.
It was designed for that, so yeah.
And even with like the Ocean Race Europe, which I know that you're hoping to do.
Yeah.
That's obviously an intense sprint version of the Ocean Race. But still then, it's days offshore and it's days working to a very high level of intensity. Have you had any chance to think about how you might cram people?
Well,
food,
yeah, it's all about being coordinated. So there's obviously, on the outside there's a bit more space.
Yeah.
Manoeuvres is quite complicated, obviously.
Yeah.
But honestly, once you're in a manoeuvre, we had it in the last Ocean Race, you've got one person on the bow, you've got one person on each side of the cockpit and one person in the middle that's doing either the handles or the direction.
Yeah.
And fairly quickly, if everyone's in their space, there's enough space for everyone. For sure, if you're going to design a boat specifically for the Ocean Race Europe, it wouldn't be like this.
Yeah.
But I think you can work around it and not lose too much in performance, basically.
Really interesting seeing the little things that Sam has done to make this boat work for him. But what if you could go bigger than that? What if you could start with this boat, sail it to success, and then begin with a fresh piece of paper? And that's exactly what Thomas Ruyant has done. Not with this one, but of course with For the People, just down here. For a start, the cockpit, you've got a little bit more space, it's a little bit more enclosed as well, it's a little bit more, shall we say, cosy. It looks like the floor is a little bit lower too, and this could all stem from the fact that at the bow is coming up to meet the water, rather than that concave, that bathtub style, which might be a little bit fast in some conditions, but can ship a lot of water as well. So, little change there. Let's see how it affects how you might live on board. This is probably the first difference. There was nowhere on For the Planet where you could sit sort of half in, half out, where you'd get a view of what's coming up, the sails, but also you'd have a little bit of shelter from the coach roof. But that's exactly what's going on here. It's a lovely seat, actually. It's pretty comfortable, and I can easily be able to get to the tiller controls and everything else. But I think the real difference is what's going on down here. So if I make myself into the cockpit, it's open. It's really quite open, and I wouldn't say that the ceiling is a long way up. I wouldn't say that this is tall, but it's definitely taller. I can almost fully stretch up. So that's one big change. And it sounds like a really simple thing to do. You say, oh, just make the coach roof taller. But in order to do that with the rules, the design, and the performance parameters as well, you'd have to take things out from other areas. Got to lower this floor, got to raise this up. I need to put buoyancy in certain areas. I need to put water tanks in certain places. Doing this comfort means you have to potentially make performance sacrifices somewhere later. Or you need to be very clever about it. But everything here is within reach. I mean, this is quite a comfortable space. In fact, I'd say that maybe there's a little bit less room, floor space, than we saw on For the Planet. But for this boat, it feels like I've got a little bit more room to breathe. One reason might be the number of windows. It's so much brighter in here. There's lovely little areas, lovely little chances to sit. Wow, this boat's even got padding. It's a little thing, but this boat's actually got padding. But from here, I can imagine that you can be in a lot of control. You'd be able to pilot the boat, do a little bit of trimming, and kind of keep yourself in the groove. Interestingly, though, one of the things I always come back to when you find yourself sitting sideways in an IMOCA is thinking, if this boat stopped suddenly, where would I get thrown? And there isn't a bulkhead or anything here to kind of stop myself. So you're probably not going to see a sailor in these seats in those kind of conditions. Then you're going to be sitting in the captain's chair. So this is very similar to what we saw on the sister ship. It's moulded, and I've got to say, I'm probably a little bit taller from shoulders to hip than Thomas, which is why I can't quite fit into it. But it encloses you in. It's wrapped up in this nice impact foam as well. And then you do have the brake here. There we go. So I can move and swivel the chair as well, release the brake, and then it holds you in place. And might not be always rear facing, but I've got computer panels here that I can bring round, hydraulic controls. I can be in here, quite comfortable. And crucially, if the boat does nosedive, I'm not going to fly away anywhere. You'll be sleeping here, you'll be working here, and you'll be cooking here as well. I've got the stove in easy reach. It's the same tap arrangement. The interesting one thing that is hanging here is the helmet as well. And I know the sailors have been talking about how hard it is to even conceive of the idea of living for months, for weeks, in a helmet in the rough seas, but there's one here within reach. This is your traditional sleeping arrangement that you'd find in pretty much any boat. It's the bunk that can get lowered down with these string systems, and then kind of tilted at the right angle to hold you into it. But just like any racing boat, realistically, the sailor's not going to be in this. It's going to be taken up with gear, with food, with spares and supplies and things like that. And they're probably going to be spending most of their time in that seat. And at least on this boat, they have got a comfortable one. Does it ever happen with you that you've made the boat a little bit comfortable in one area, or you're just so completely wiped out that you don't hit the wake-up alarm, you don't do this, you don't realise that your eyelids close and you just nod off?
It hasn't happened to me yet. It's definitely happened to other people, so it's something to try and keep an eye on. I mean, when I put alarms on, I try and have a kind of like a large bracket alarm.
Yeah.
So just like if you get distracted or if you fall asleep or something happens, wake me up.
Yeah.
And then a smaller bracket alarm, which is more performance, if you like.
Yeah, okay.
So if the wind changes to 2 or 3 knots, I need to change the sail trim, wake me up. Or if the wind changes to 10 knots, and you haven't noticed, you need to do something about it. There's a sleep alarm. So this, for example, is a sleep for 40 minutes.
Oh, right.
I think if we go this, then we can go. So it's a wake up alarm which flashes light.
Oh, flashing light as well.
And after, I can't remember how many seconds it is, it gets louder. Goes to a second strength to try and wake you up. There you go.
Yeah, okay, yeah, you're not gonna stand there after that.
Yeah.
What does that do to you psychologically with the strains that you're putting on yourself in terms of, if this shifts, wake me up, if that increases, wake me up, if that goes wrong, rudely wake me up from a sleep? What does that do for you?
You know what you're going into. Like you've signed up to the Vendée. I don't know what it is, 'cause I've never done it before. But you've signed up to do the. You've signed up to the Vendée.
Yeah.
So I mean, I'm not going on a holiday. I'm not going expecting it to be easy. So no, you go kind of into these conditions. The question for me is finding the balance of performance and stress, and at what points is putting that stress on yourself reduce performance.
Yeah.
Like I'm fully accepting that I'm going to have 3 months that aren't going to be easy, and they're going to have to go dig deep to get to the end of it, and do a good result. But where it needs to be careful is when do you start pushing too hard to the fact that you nod off, and suddenly I wake up 6 hours later with the sails flapping because all the alarms haven't woken me up because my body's just been like, Sam, no, this is too much, you need to stop now. Yeah. Which I've heard has happened to other people. So, and that's obviously too far because you're going to lose a lot more than the 10 minutes you missed with your Jenica, which need to be trimmed on 3 centimetres. Completely different to the ocean race where you've got 5 people, you're at 100% the whole time and rotating to make sure you're not losing percentage of performance. Here you're looking at maybe 85-90% of potential of the boat, but keeping that going all the time and not being the boat that stops because it's broken or because he fell asleep or because he's tired or because he wasn't lucid enough to make the right decision.
Offshore, it feels like that's what makes the difference. I mean, we're on your boat today and you've got a whole team around you and they all seem like they know the boat inside and out, and it always comes back to that question of why you? Why are you the skipper? Why are you going to go and do these things? And I'm wondering, does it just come down to because I have the knowledge, but ultimately I can push myself that little bit further?
I mean, it's definitely teamwork for sure. I mean, it wouldn't work with just me. Like, all of these people are here to help the boat go, and if without them it would be nothing. So that's the first part of it. And then the second part of it is I don't think all of them want to do it. Yeah. There's quite a few people that are like, yeah, well, better you than me, Sam. So, right. I mean, I like challenges. I like pushing myself, and I've found myself a big one, so I'll give it a go. But no, I mean, it's a little bit of... some people enjoy the idea, some people hate the idea. I like doing the ocean race, even fully crewed. Some people that couldn't think of anything worse than going offshore in an IMOCA, even with 5 people on board, and even less so on your own. So, kind of each their own. But I mean, I like this. I've been working towards it for 20 odd years, so the aim is to make the best of it.
I see some photos up and stuff like that. Do you have to find those little grounding moments, or I'm trying to put myself into the position of when it gets really tough, and I know I would break. How do you not?
I haven't done it yet, so I don't know. I'll let you know in a year's time if I broke or not. But
no, but this is not your first sail. It's not your first challenge.
Sail, yeah,
you have put yourself out there, and you have pushed yourself harder and further than a lot of other people.
Yeah, I mean, it's nice to have a little reminder of land and pictures of your family and your kids. And I've got a girl that's not even 2 yet, so it changes life a little bit. It can be quite dangerous what we do, so it's nice to... Well, it's good to remember that there's bigger things in life than just trying to win a sailing race. Because sometimes you get caught up in it and wound up and you end up doing more than you would normally. But yeah, it is what it is.
Yeah. Banging my head on everything.